You're listening to the Fitness Rants Podcast, the show where unfiltered conversations meet real-world health and fitness.
We cut through the noise and deep dive into the truth behind health, nutrition, physique development, and the fitness industry itself.
We're your hosts, Ross Gilmore and Malin Blumdahl, experienced coaches and educators who have been part of the fitness industry for over 15 years.
If you're a coach, high performer, or someone just tired of mainstream nonsense, you're in the right place.
Now let's get into today's episode. Welcome to another episode of the Fitness Rants Podcast, and we've got another guest episode with the unmistakable Rachel Godfrey. Rachel, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you so much for having me. Excited to get into this.
Of course, now the intro that we did before the podcast is sort of done all the formal stuff, but I think we sort of spoke off camera. This is a little bit of a full circle sort of moment in a way for me, because when I was first getting into the fitness industry, and I've spoke about my backstory numerous times, did the degree in accounting and finance, and then felt lost. This was around the financial crisis, 2009. Had no idea what I was going to do. And then long story short, 2011, I was just like, right, I'm just going to make the jump. Got into the fitness space, and it was around about that time that podcasting was starting to sort of pick up, especially around the fitness space. And that's the first time I came across you. And it was not Rachel Godfrey back then. It was Rachel Guy, obviously.
Yes,
and that's the funny thing is I had to really think when I was introducing your name there, because I was going to call you Rachel Guy.
I think some people still do. So I go by both.
So I have to still really think about it, because you imagine when you hear that name week upon week on podcast episodes, that becomes I think you're always going to be Rachel Guy to me. I think that's, sorry, David. But yeah, so I think this is kind of cool to be 14, 15 years later at this point, 14 years later. And here we are. But I really appreciate you taking the time to come on and have a chat about, or have a rant about some things that I think both of us have some pretty strong feelings about.
I feel like I need to crack my knuckles and kind of warm up here. So we got a lot to get into.
Well, I think what the people on the podcast won't know, and just bringing it back to that sort of 2012 era, is people might look at your Instagram page now and they see you as this sort of very direct, no BS, no fluff sort of coach, and you coach a lot of entrepreneurs and female sort of high performers, I guess you could say. Do you coach men?
Yes, we do. Privately, yes, we do, but predominantly women.
I would say your marketing is very clearly on the females, right? But what they probably don't know is back in the Rachel Guy era, you had a different program, and I actually came across you when it was the Athletic Fox days.
Yes.
Fond memories of that? Or
so many fond memories. I accidentally fell into coaching women. I started my career as a physio and as a strength conditioning coach in rugby and mixed martial arts. So, male dominated sports, right? And so I think my career really took off. I think it was 2009. I started posting training videos on YouTube. And obviously I was lifting pretty heavy, and I would get messages from women saying, oh, how do you lift weights and you not look so bulky or not look so jacked? And I thought that myth had died. Unfortunately, it hasn't. And it's kind of having a bit of a resurgence now in 2025,
sure. Yep.
Which is unfortunate, but we'll get to that a little bit later. And so I think, that's where I noticed that there was a really big gap in the market of, I have, grown up in my career in strength conditioning, and so proper periodized training protocols and programs, very structured biomechanical lifting. I did a lot of biomechanics. I know that that's definitely your jam.
And that's also had a resurgence in the last sort of 5 to 10 years, popularity-wise. Social media's had a lot to do with that, but yeah. Yeah,
and so I think, combining those two, I saw that, no one's doing this for women. And so women were, they're either bodybuilding or doing boot camps and, just other stuff, but really looking for something else. And so I kind of saw this gap in the market. And that's where Athletic Fox was born, which was my former company and, my alias and I guess one of my alter egos still to this day is Athletic Fox. And so Athletic Fox was all about empowering women to lift weights and to get them strong, not just physically, but also mentally and emotionally as well. So really starting to tie in what I now know as the 5 bodies, because we're not robots. We're not just the physical body. We're the mental, emotional, spiritual bodies as well. And we have to incorporate, and the energetic bodies, and we have to incorporate all of that into somebody's programming. And so I started that trajectory with Athletic Fox. And I wanted to also take things online, because I had the mission back then, which is my same mission now, 15 years later, to change the lives of 1 million women through health and fitness. And I can't do that alone. And so I need to train key people to then go off into their communities and do that. So, I was very fortunate back then to be training, some very high profile traders and lawyers, and they would take these principles and take it into their office. And so that's where I see these key people and having them teach my key principles. So yeah, that's basically how Athletic Fox was born. And then obviously that has morphed into now what's Onyx Performance.
Yeah. Tell us a bit more about that. What has been the biggest difference in setting that up versus the Athletic Fox stuff back then? Just before you do though, isn't it interesting though, because when you talk about what you were trying to do with Athletic Fox back then, and it's so funny when you just mentioned that, and I thought actually you're 100% right. When I was first getting into the fitness space, bodybuilding was sort of like the leading thing in the industry at that time. It was very much about the physique sports and competitions. And then it sort of went away towards the whole, and I was part of this whole thing as well, like CrossFit and functional fitness, and I even competed at regionals and did all that crazy nonsense stuff. It sort of came back around again. We're in our sort of bodybuilding era, physique era, in the fitness space again. Yeah. Have you found it? And so it'd be good for you to obviously elaborate on the things that are maybe different now with Onyx, but what have also been maybe some of the similar challenges that have cropped up as a result of this sort of resurgence of this such high emphasis on the physique. And aesthetic? Yeah.
So when I first started with Athletic Fox, I mean, obviously the first challenge was to get online because nobody was doing it. So I had to teach myself everything on the tech side.
This was back in...
So I launched Athletic Fox online in 2012.
Oof, that's early.
So it was very early to market and I had no idea what I was doing. I mean, let's be honest, as an entrepreneur, we're still all winging it every day, right? No one knows. And that's the game of entrepreneurship, which is so fun because if it had been done before, frankly, we would be bored. And so this is the best thing about it, is that it hasn't been done before. We're all winging it. So let's just do our best. And I have the phrase, fuck it and find out. Let's just try it and see what works and basically fail faster. And so that we know what doesn't work so that we can try again with what does work.
That's probably going to be quite reassuring for quite a lot of people to hear, because you probably get this with a lot of the females you work with, where they constantly feel overwhelmed, behind.
Yes.
Keeping up with the Joneses type thing with their businesses, where they're just doing so well and they're able to stay so much on top of this. And so they probably look to someone like you who, and frankly, on social media, it looks like you've got all your shit together. But the reality is that there's always plates spinning, right?
Completely, absolutely. There's always plates spinning. What I will say is it does get less chaotic.
Yeah.
You do. I think you have more plates to spin and it's slightly less chaotic because you back yourself more. And so I think the fear of failure is less. It goes from being this like tight noose around your neck of, oh my God, I'm fucking terrified of like losing money, or I'm terrified of like falling behind or fucking it up or looking like an idiot, to, oh, well, that's one of the very real consequences. Well, I'm just going to do it anyway and find out, because you don't know, you can't have the benefit of hindsight. So you have to go, you have to find out, you have to see what your consequences are going to be. Yes, I've lost money doing things. Yes, I've wasted time doing things, but that's part of it. And
part of the deal.
You see social media, the only person you can compare yourself to is who you were 6 months ago or who you were a year ago, because I can tell you now, I consult with some very high profile people and some very successful people outwardly. Behind the scenes, their life is chaotic and I would not want to trade places with them. And so we try to manage that. We have to create an emotional stable base first of all. That is the most important thing. But when it comes to the challenges of Athletic Fox versus Onyx Performance now, aside from obviously the tech stuff, which I had to teach myself all of that, I wasted, you could see it as wasted time. I spent hours and months and weeks trying to build platforms, build websites. And who was building membership sites back then? Nobody was. So I had to teach myself. And so now it's very easy, right?
So many options now.
There's so many options now. You could build in Kajabi and, or any of these like platforms.
And now the paralysis analysis is trying to figure out which one is the best one, and people lose time on that.
Absolutely. Just go with one and make it work for you and, learn as you go. But in terms of the bodybuilding, and listen, I fell into bodybuilding, and I remember I was probably about 19. I'd started in a gym when I was 13. My dad took me along, and I watched my dad in the gym, and you just kind of fall into it, right? And I remember being 19, and I was with a bodybuilding trainer at the time called Tom. And Tom showed me a photo of his sister, and she was a figure athlete. Figure back in the day is like the bikini of 10 years ago, right? And so I was like, wow, like she looks amazing. And so I thought, I want to look like that. So I started the whole bodybuilding journey, no intention of competing. And then it had got to the stage where I had a couple of people say, you've got a great physique, you should compete. I was like, why do I want to stand on stage and have somebody like judge my physique? Like I just wasn't interested. I kind of bowed to the peer pressure and I got on stage, and honestly, I didn't enjoy the experience at all. I hated dieting. I'm not a dieter. I like, having my cream in my coffee. I like to have the nice things. I was partying back then. I was drinking alcohol. I didn't like that very sort of restrictive way of being. And honestly, I didn't like being shredded. I didn't like the look. I didn't like the look on my face. And so it wasn't a very attractive thing for me to get into.
Right. It was very much one and done.
Yes. So I think I did 1 or 2. But I took the principles of bodybuilding. And I think that this is where we can marry this up with health and longevity. And I'm so grateful that I built muscle in my teens and my 20s that then saw me through into my 30s and now into my 40s. And it's not to say that it's never too late to start building muscle. Never too late.
Yep.
But if you can start and you can stack on as much muscle as you can in your 20s and your 30s, you're going to be so far ahead when you get to your 40s. And that will take you through every phase of life. It took me through pregnancy. I had hyperemesis during pregnancy. I lost an awful lot of weight. But, you have muscle memory. It kind of comes back when you start training again. But the foundation is there. And if you can have the foundation of muscle mass, healthy body composition, strong bones, you're going to take you so far in terms of longevity.
I think a key thing you mentioned there as well is that the muscle memory thing. Part of that is the sort of the neurological component. You have the skill. You've developed the skill, so then at least, okay, maybe you have to take time off. Maybe you have a really tricky pregnancy. Maybe you get pregnant 2 or 3 times. The first one was a doddle. The next 2 are an absolute nightmare. Could be C-sections, whatever it is.
Yes.
But you have that skill set and you can easily get back into things. I think that gets overlooked a lot as well.
Hugely. And let's talk about the skill of lifting, because I know this is your jam and your domain, but the number of women that come to me and say, oh, well, your programs are too basic and your programs are too simple. I'm like, red flag. Massive red flag, right? Do you want to know what I did in the gym this morning? I had limited time this morning. I benched and I paired that with Bulgarian split squats. 2 exercises. Did 5 sets of 8 reps. Done. I'm out, right? People will look at that. And I've been lifting for 27 years. And so when somebody says, oh, your programs are too simple, massive, massive red flag.
And what's the things then that you know for a fact that when they look at that that they're not going to be doing when they go in to execute that program?
Well, first of all, I look at somebody's physique, right? And so somebody can be like deconditioned.
Yeah.
And you can look at somebody's physique, you see how they move, right? You can spot an advanced lifter a mile away. A number of women that say, and I mean, you must see this too on a gym floor and in the coaches that you have, oh, I've been a trainer for 10 years. I'm like, you've been a trainer for 10 years and you still don't know how to squat. You still don't know how to make that Bulgarian split squat glute dominant versus quad dominant. You know jack shit about biomechanics. So therefore you know nothing about the skill of lifting. I'm 27 years into my lifting career. And if I train with David's 47. We're correcting each other's form. Like we're thinking about I look at his body and like, how is he moving? Like what's his physique? How is he built? What's his biomechanics? They're different to mine. And so how can we tweak that? So the skill of lifting never ends. You're a rugby player. You were probably knew how to throw a rugby ball when you were 5. You were still learning that same skill of throwing a rugby ball when you were in your 20s.
I mean, I was late getting into rugby, but yeah, like you intuitively just picked it up, and probably within a month now, if I had to pick up a rugby ball, I'd be able to, the end of 4 weeks, I'd be able to throw a decent pass probably.
Right. But it's still that skill of lifting is so important. And I would argue that's probably the most underrated thing, because, we can look at like load on a bar and but unless you've got like good skill and you've got, neurologically you're on, how to lift, you can hold tension. The weight on a bar is irrelevant. Yeah. Because you can have somebody who can squat their body weight and it can look dirty, or you can have somebody who squat their body weight and it's clean. And the person who's got that clean looking squat, for example, they're going to get so much further in their body composition. Yeah.
That holding tension thing you said is such a massive one. So I often refer to it, and we sort of use this terminology in RTS as well, as this idea of owning your transitions, the stops and starts. So I always refer to it as like you kind of want like an Emirates takeoff and landing and not a fly-by.
Oh, that's a really good one.
And that way is that you see a lot of people, it's like lots of jerky, Yankee stuff when they're going out of start positions, and it's a lot of grabby, pulley, droppy stuff when they're going out of end positions as well. And that ability, like you say, to actually keep tension placed in a muscle. And to your point as well, like even people who can lift a decent amount of weight, okay, you can throw around a bunch of weight, and you probably see this with a lot of the females you coach. They're like, oh, you know, but I can do like a 140 kilo hip thrust. And it's like, but your glutes they've not grown for like 5 years.
Yes.
And the hip thrust is just one example. But to your point, it's just their training is they often like, I've been training now really hard. I got to a certain point with just sheer effort. Cool. Effort will take you so far, but at some point, you actually have to know how to make that stimulus actually become productive so you can take it forward. You're probably at a point now, like you said, you did 2 exercises, 5 sets of 8. Chances are that by the time you got to your 4th and 5th sets,
I'm done.
well, not only that, but the sets were very clearly over when they were over. As
Absolutely.
in mechanical tension, you hit a sticking point, failure. You would not have been able to do another rep.
Absolutely.
But you look at most people, not just females, 'cause I don't want to sound misogynist or anything else, but you look at many females lift, just that's the audience that we both mostly work with. And the speed of rep 1, the concentric rep speed of rep 1 and rep 8 or 12, whatever it is, exactly the same.
Yes. And let's talk about, like, you know, whilst we're here on exercise selection as well, because I see a lot of women who have been lifting weights for, you know, might be 5-10 years, but they've got a very unbalanced physique. And it's because they have tried to just add load to the bar. And so they're back squatting, they're deadlifting, they're very quad dominant movements. They've got like very overdeveloped traps, their physique is not where it should be. And it doesn't take a lot to change somebody's physique like that. I see a lot of very strong women as well. So yes, those who are total beginners and have very little muscle mass, but also on the other side, quite advanced lifters. They haven't quite learned the skill of lifting, and their exercise selection is poor. Because even though they might be doing the big lifts, the bench, the deadlift, the chin-ups, the pull-ups, whatever, if they're so quad dominant, they don't like their physique. So we have to look at a female physique and think about what's going to be balanced for that client. Look, I used to have really big quads. I didn't like them anymore. It took me 7 years, right, of zero quad work. I would refuse to do anything remotely quad dominant, and I just walked and walked and walked, and that's how I basically, in quote unquote, shrunk my quads.
It's like sort of purposeful atrophy to an extent.
Absolutely. Yeah. And basically just rebalanced my physique. And so even now, if I go, and I now, like, I would say I'd probably throw in 1 quad exercise to every 3 posterior chain exercises. So I'm very unbalanced, honestly, when it comes to quad and glute and hamstring. But I feel as, you know, the type of physique that I have to do 3 times the work posterior chain to quad.
Yeah. So I think that's what you're probably getting at there, is that it's like, it's not balanced in the sense of it's like a 1-to-1 ratio of exercise selection. It's setting up your program in an intentional way, which actually creates the improvements you're trying to get.
Yes. And so, a lot of guys, for example, they do a lot of benching, like, let's bench, bro. Whereas we'd be so much better off with a physique and having a much more of a balanced physique if you've got that, like, really nicely developed back, rear delts, like cap delts, rather than just so much chest and so much bench. And ironically, you know, the stronger your back gets, hey ho, your pecs also grow as well because you're able to push more and stabilize more. So, you know. And
you also don't look like the Hunchback of Notre Dame either.
It's such an ugly posture. You know, I talk about this a lot. I cannot stand like this, like face in the phone. Like, it's such an ugly posture. So, like, let's get rid of that. I feel like I tap.
It's almost rare a bit nowadays to see like males and females where when they walk, there's almost like this. And I'm sure you get complimented on this as well. Like, almost people comment on how you carry yourself. It's kind of this. Shoulders are tall, chest is up. You're not walking around all slouched and, you know, rounded forward.
I think we're all guilty of it, though. I mean, I intentionally say to David sometimes, if you catch me in that, like, ugly posture, pull me up on it. Yeah. Because I think we're all, we all working on our phones, on our laptops. But, you know, if we can just spend some time in extension, it will take your physique so far. And I think that that's the key thing here, is that when a lot of women say, I want to lose weight. Yes, all right. Fat loss is a big thing. Most women are carrying too much body fat and they are under-muscled. All right, let's just call a spade a spade. And most of the clients that we work with, they do need a body recomp. However, having said that, I'm sure you also see this, is that I work with women who are, they don't have actually a lot of fat to lose. They need to work on their posture. You know, we've got this like posterior pelvic tilt going on. They're wondering why they've got this like pouch belly, you know, that this really like hunched forward shoulders. And I'm just, you know, if we can just raise the head, bring the chin back, you know, really fix those glutes, like really like work on your hamstrings a lot more, the physique is so much more balanced. And actually, fat loss is not a priority then. When you see that and work on a pelvic floor, really get somebody to draw up their pelvic floor, like somebody's physique really changes dramatically.
Because someone can actually, sometimes they have glutes there.
Yes.
They just don't ever present it.
Yeah.
Because of the pelvic tilt, you say, is not in the right place. Or when they train, they don't know how to position things in such a way where they can actually place the tension across the tissues as well.
Yeah.
I see that a lot. Like a lot of the female clients I train is that they're like, I can't feel my glutes. They've never been taught about lumbopelvic dissociation, or even the opposite of that, which is actually keeping things in place and knowing what should be moving and what shouldn't be moving. And that just comes back to exactly full circle to what we were talking about, the whole skill of training. And part of that is, yeah, sure, how to move, but it's also how to make sure things are not moving when you don't want them to be.
Yes.
Well.
And I think that's part of the skill of lifting. And I think coming from a physio background and, teaching, as a trainer, spending time teaching your client how to brace. Yeah. If you don't know how to brace as a trainer, get out. Right? Come and attend like Ross's courses. He's going to help you because I haven't got the patience to do it anymore.
Well, I was actually going to ask you that. Like, what made you sort of transition, I suppose, from, did you ever do one-to-one personal training with people?
For years. Yes. Like I was on a gym floor for many, many years. From 2000. So I moved to Australia in 2006. So it would have been 2006. And actually, even when I moved to London, when I met David, I was still like had a bit of a hand in. Obviously, everything was predominantly online then, but I still had a hand in, and that was 2016. And then even now, I have like 1 or 2 VIP clients in Dubai who I come down once a month and still see them face to face. And I really miss that actually. Just you have to leverage your time, but I really miss the face to face,
the human connection stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's honestly as well where my real strength is in that face to face, and that just being able to watch somebody. And I love that when somebody's been stuck for so long. And I can see the way they move, and I'm like, well, it's obvious what it is.
It's a hard conflict, right? Because I mean, obviously, you're someone that with the size of business that you run, the scale that it runs at, when you know you've got a skill set, like you know that you're really good with the in-person stuff. Do you find yourself like?
Absolutely.
Yeah, a lot. Probably think about it. I've found myself actually going back into doing a bit more in person now.
Yes.
For that very reason, I was getting to a point where I'd be watching the form check videos that clients were sending on WhatsApp, and I would pull them up and I'd be looking at all the different angles and giving feedback. And then they come back the next week and they maybe moved an inch. It's like, okay, we're getting somewhere, but it's just taking a lot. See them in the gym and literally within 15 minutes, looks great.
Yeah.
And that's tricky when you have that skill set where you can make such a big difference in such a short time. But it's difficult if you want to make a bigger impact. You have to find, I suppose, whatever balance you can tolerate.
I think, the way that I did it was I just thought, right, if I can train some trainers, or if I have a connection of trainers all over the world, the majority of our client base is still Australia, UK, US. And if I can refer people to trainers, that's the best way to do it. Because even though I do, like you, I really miss the gym floor. And I don't think that anything will beat a face-to-face trainer. I mean, we're looking down, we're staring down a barrel now of AI, right? And all of these jobs being taken, nothing is going to beat a face-to-face trainer. When you have got a client who's a banker, a lawyer, doctor, like they all want a face-to-face trainer. And I don't think anything is going to replace that. You have a really...
Assuming you're good.
Yes, assuming you're good and you can progress and you can keep a client and retain a client for years. And those clients become your friends. And I think, when you have that skill, you're irreplaceable. But I do miss that. And it was a hard divorce to leave the gym floor. But you have to think, okay, so my bigger mission and my greater impact. But yeah, of course, I don't think personal training online is ever going to be face-to-face. And I've had, in fact, last week alone, I had said to a client who's been with us for a long time online, we do other stuff with them as obviously more the mindset and identity, some of the business stuff too. But I said, I want you to go back to a face-to-face trainer. And you can't use my programs with a trainer. And this is the other thing that a lot of people do online is that they'll come and they'll want to use my training programs but see a face-to-face trainer. I'm like, no conflict of interest. It's disrespectful to the trainer who you're seeing face-to-face. If you're seeing a trainer face-to-face, you do exactly what he or she says. And equally, don't come to me for nutrition if your trainer is also in the nutritional space.
Yeah.
Because there's a conflict of interest. There are some cases that if we got friends who are trainers and they don't want, they know that I've got a particularly difficult client who's got, a lot of trauma. They've got a lot of emotional issues around food. They're with me because we need to sort out their binge and emotional eating. They don't want to get involved.
And that's smart because they're seeing this is my scope of practice.
Exactly.
And I'm not touching that with a barge pole, and rightly so. You shouldn't if you're not qualified to do so. So
absolutely. And I fully respect that. So I'll just say, please go and see this trainer face to face. I think it's going to be good for you socially. I think we can learn the skill of lifting here. Let me take care of your nutrition. But I'm talking to that trainer. Right.
Yeah, that's the difference.
I'm talking to that trainer and I'm like, hey, how is so-and-so going? What's their general mood like? How do they show up in training? What's the performance like? So, we have very open communication.
How do you find that? Because I know that there's, and this is part of just the inherent ego within our space, is that people don't always like to play nice.
No.
Have you found yourself having many conflicts at times, or is it just that you've got that tight network that it just works easily?
I don't do drama. I don't do conflict. I never have any drama in my life. And so I work, a lot of the coaches who I refer to, they're like me, been in the industry 20 years.
Got you.
We all know each other. We've all kind of come from the same courses, the same backgrounds. We both totally respect each other's expertise in each area. And quite often I'm going to, these trainers for help. For different things, and they come to me for help for different things. So I think, when you've kind of been in it a long time, the ego, like there's no ego at the top. It's like
collaboration.
We're all collaborating at the top. Like competition happens at the bottom.
Yeah, 100%. So within your coaching, let's say that back then there was that bigger in-person training component. Now, of course, you're taking the hands off that side of things. What do you spend, would you say, most of your time trying to sort of solve or work through with the clients that you work with now? Obviously, yes, there's the nutrition side of things, there's the psychology, but maybe just dig into that a little bit. What would you say if you had to really try and parse it a little bit? What do you really spend a lot of your time on now? Identity. Okay. So let's get into that.
Yeah, becoming the person who gets the thing, because there's this big misconception of when I lose weight and I'm 60 kilos, then I'm going to feel good about myself, or when I'm earning when I've got like a 7-figure business, then I'm going to feel good about myself. The actual role reversal. So you need to become the person who is fit, lean, and healthy. You need to become the person who's a 7-figure business owner before you even get there. Because when you get there, you're already on to the next thing. Yep. So we have to show up as, who is she or he? How are they acting? How are they responding? What are they doing? What's the internal dialogue? Becoming the person who gets the thing. Because when you're thinking, acting, and feeling and behaving in accordance with that, your body's just a delayed representation.
Yeah.
And so I think this is one of the biggest things that we work on, is obviously the mindset, and then also integrating that into business. So obviously we work with high achievers. And so the traits that allow you to become a high achiever in the first place, so things like people pleasing, perfectionism, being a workaholic, stress addict. I mean, they're all things that we've probably worked through. I know I certainly have. I was a workaholic, stress addict. I loved the pressure. I thrived on the adrenaline, right, of the stress and the pressure until it broke me.
It's almost like women who overexercise. It's like they're addicted to fatigue because it's giving them that escapism, that numbing sort of sensation, etc. Yeah.
And so it'll serve you to a point, right? Teaches you to be resilient, have a high pain tolerance. But the problem is that even though these traits will accelerate you in your early career, you get your promotions, you get rewarded with yet more work, you have a reputation of being reliable, dependable, the one to go to in a crisis, a problem solver. That will take you so far. It will take you to a certain level of wealth creation. It will take you to a certain level of relationships. It'll only take you so far, and it will be the absolute downfall of your health.
I was going to say,
and
at what cost?
At what cost? And so then to move beyond that, if you want to go from doing like $100,000 a year to like $1 million a year, what's the difference in that? Well, we have to overcome a lot of these traits that people are struggling with, whether it comes to perfectionism, being a completion addict, so having the addiction to ticking stuff off your list, and the completion addiction. And what we look at with that is also campaign lifestyle. So people will go on a fitness campaign for 6 weeks, and then they'll do a work campaign for 8 weeks. And when I finish this block of work or this round of finances that I'm raising, then I'm going to go on holiday and I'm going to go, have my pina coladas at 9 a.m. and fuck the fitness. I'll sort that out when I come home. They come back from holidays and they're like, right, shit, I'm really out of shape. I cannot think straight. I've got work happening. I know in 6 weeks' time, like I've got shit's hitting the fan in work, so I'm going to get into the fitness campaign. So this campaign lifestyle is a real problem, and we've really got to get somebody out of that. And again, it's a mindset thing.
It's almost like the sort of Ouroboros thing where it's like the snake eating its own tail.
Completely.
Yeah.
That's also a really good analogy. Exactly that. The snake's coming like this, and your tail's like literally just dragging behind.
Just gobbling it up over and over and over again.
Yes.
And every time you go around that, you're starting in a worse place than the previous time as well, most likely.
Exactly. Well, exactly that. And this is how like people spend their 20s getting away with it, the 30s slowly putting on maybe it's 2-3 kilos a year. And then by the time they hit 40 with metabolic disease and going, how on earth did that happen?
Hypertension and
how did this happen? Right? How did it happen? Well, this is what happened. It was just a general like worsening of your habits and behaviors. And so this is why we have to intervene at an earlier phase. So this is what we spend a lot of our time doing, is integrating. How do we integrate business? Because we work with high achievers, entrepreneurs, founders, C-suite execs. How do we integrate that with your family life? Because family is so important. And arguably your relationship with your spouse is the most important relationship in your business and your life. And then how do we integrate health into that? Because the problem is that people are really wrapped up in perfectionism. If I don't have an hour in the gym, then I'm not going to do it at all. I will wait until Monday until all my ducks are in a row. Well, that's useless. You know, what happens next time you eat? Oh, well, don't worry about that. Well, hang on a minute. You've got like 8 meals between now and Monday.
Yep.
You could lose 1 kilo by then if you really put your mind to it. Oh, but no, wait till Monday. You know, and so we really have to intervene
it's like
now.
Selective procrastination, which they wouldn't do in their business, or at least they shouldn't be doing in their business anyway, but probably they do it with certain things as well.
You've completely nailed it. The standards that somebody has in their business or at work are completely different to the standards that they have in their health. We need to make sure that these are balanced between the two. We talk about boundaries, right? Boundaries.
It's a big one.
It is a big one, but I think that boundaries are a good starting point for somebody. So a boundary might look like saying no is a complete sentence. We all know that. But having a boundary, because unless you respect your own boundaries and do what you say you will do, then how do you expect anybody else to respect your boundaries?
Says to clients all the time, boundaries start with you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's go into then the you. So a layer deeper than that is when you know who you are, what you stand for, and where you're going in life. You don't have to have boundaries because energetically people read you, right? You walk into a room differently. You say no differently. You communicate differently. I've just seen a client of mine now. She said to me, I got healthy and I got into shape and I'm making more money because I'm doing deals differently. She's got an amazing skincare brand and she used to go into pitch to clients and pitch to investors and say, well, you know, I've got this. She's got a financial background, right? So she's a smart woman. She used to go in and say, well, I've got this like little skincare brand that, you know, kind of maybe of interest to you. And now she's like, got this skincare brand. It's making X amount of money. And these are the amazing results that we're getting. I think this is an opportunity that you may want to take on. Completely different energy.
Yeah, completely different language as well.
Completely different energy, completely different language. She's crushing it, right? So when you get fit and you get healthy, you're going to make more money. And so by making more money, you then have more freedom. So this is like a joint world of wealth creation and health creation. The two are so merged. You cannot like separate the two. But people are separating the two, saying, well, I'm going to make the money first and then I'll get healthy. Well, you could be fucking dead, mate. Right? You could be dead. Like I'm hearing stories all the time. I was listening to one of Peter Attia's podcasts, and he was talking about, you know, the triathlete widowmaker of the 40-year-old guy who he might be lean on the outside, but you know his cholesterol is super high, and then he dies of a heart attack whilst he's training. You know, like these things happen, and we always think that it's not going to happen to us, but it could. And so this is why health is a priority. And then, you know, get healthy, you can get wealthy at the same time. And the two do merge together.
And it's funny how often people justify sacrificing the health side of things to get the wealth, but then you spend all of your wealth trying to regain your health again.
Yes.
Which is a bit of a weird sort of contradiction. Why
Absolutely.
You do that. It's funny we were saying about the boundaries thing. It was, and I'm sure you get this question from clients a lot as well. They'll often say, well, how do you go about setting boundaries around X, Y, and Z? My answer is just, I don't have to. Just it is what it is, and this is not even up for discussion.
Absolutely. Done. Because you know who you are, what you stand for, and where you're going in life. So nobody's going to question you. But if somebody's, you know, there's sometimes like a little adjustment phase, right? So
That was going to be my next question too, is for the people, like, we're making it sound like it's just super simple.
Well, it is.
Well, it is for us. But there's going to be, for those that are just really struggling to make that leap, what would be your advice for people to try and just get to a place where they're able to be just so confident and assertive in living by those boundaries?
So I like to think of boundaries, first of all, as like a bowling alley. I don't know about you, like I'm shit at bowling, so I still have to like...
I can't say that, sorry.
Okay, well, like, I'm good at other sports and I have many skills, but bowling is definitely not one of them. So I like it when my kids come bowling with me so we can have that.
Makes you feel good.
I can have the rails up. So boundaries are a little bit like the guide rails in a bowling alley. So we need them up to start with. And sometimes you're going to put your boundaries too high.
Sometimes you have to keep them up all the time.
Yes, you do. Yeah, and with certain people you do as well until they start to learn. But with these boundaries, sometimes you're going to overshoot it and sometimes you're going to undershoot it. And this is where we have to kind of like learn upon reflection. So it might be, for example, look, if you're a CEO of a company, or you're going through let's say you're on C-suite, you're doing a round of financing, and shit's really hitting the fan at work. You can't be working a 9 to 5. This is unreasonable. But there does have to be a cutoff period there. There does have to be some flexibility there. So what we look at is, what is the minimal effective dose? And so let's look at training, for example. Training minimal effective dose, 3 training sessions a week, 10,000 steps every single day. All of my clients, irrelevant of who they are, whether they're in theatre and are surgeons, to whether I've got somebody who's running a trading desk, to lawyers, et cetera, all my clients doing at least 10,000 steps every single day.
What would you say are for those people that say they can't do that? Like, I can hardly get to the gym once or twice a week. 10,000 steps, I don't have time for that. What are the main limiting beliefs that those people tend to have?
You just don't value it. There is not... We work with the busiest people who have got the most insane pressure on their plate. And this is also what annoys me when people don't understand high achievers. I think high achievers are misunderstood, men and women. And it's really annoying as a high achiever for somebody to say, oh, just do less. Why don't you just like take time off and smell the roses? It's really annoying. Like, they don't understand like this drive.
It's like trying to tell someone to calm down when they're angry.
Oh my God, it's so annoying, right?
Doesn't work.
It doesn't work like that. So we have to learn to work with the psychology of a high achiever, of what is this going to bring into your life? Instead of like we can't just shoehorn a diet and exercise program into an already chaotic lifestyle. And so if you're looking at this, of looking at your diary and thinking, shit, where am I going to fit 10,000 steps into this? It's because you're trying to shoehorn it into your current lifestyle. We need to change that. And this is obviously where we then work on the identity and everything first. And so I like fast fat loss, actually. I'm a real proponent of, like, especially if somebody's metabolically unhealthy, I want to get weight off that person as quick as humanly possible. Yep. Especially men. Like, men are diet super hard, right? Because we can take it. You can tolerate it a lot more. Women, like, less so. But certainly, if I've got somebody who is 20 kilos overweight, there's no reason why I can't get 5 kilos off them in the first month. Yeah. And the reason being is that I need to give somebody the belief that they can do it. And so even if we start out with, this month we clear the decks, we're going hard. Then it gives somebody the belief, because if in the current mindset of, if I've got somebody who's exhausted, overwhelmed, so stressed at work, they're arguing with their spouse, this is not somebody who I can just say, just do this, go to the gym 3 times a week, do 10,000 steps a day. I need to facilitate that, and I need to really help them see that this is possible. So that's why we can't shoehorn it in. But I'm very clever in like the way that I kind of get into their mind, right? And I'm just like this like little worm that kind of infests the brain of like just getting somebody to think differently, really celebrating their wins. A lot of people are so focused on what they don't want in life. Be focused on what you do want in life. And so actually getting 10,000 steps in is actually pretty easy. You get up 20 minutes earlier. Before you go to bed, go for a walk for 20 minutes. And actually that will then help your sleep. So I use obviously
a lot of reframing and
absolutely. And so, steps and sleep. I mean, sleep obviously is very important. I mean, we could spend an entire podcast on why sleep is important, but in some clients, I will prioritize steps over sleep. And here's why. Some people have got such terrible sleep habits and they're so wired before they go to bed. If I push out their bedtime just by 20 minutes so that we stop eating 3 hours before bed, no screens, 2 hours before bed, and then an hour before bed, we have to think about, okay, so what's that wind down look like? Then it might be listening to an audiobook, going for a walk, doing something, even if that client's going to bed later, because the quality of the sleep that they get is infinitely better than if I push them to go to bed at 9 o'clock and they've only just finished work at 9:15. So I do sometimes, like, I mean, there obviously we want to prioritize sleep. I mean, that's a no-brainer. But there are some cases in which I will make sure that somebody does their steps in the evening or in the morning, depending on, but that going to bed and getting up at the same time every single day is so important, even if that sleep time is shortened in the short term, whilst we're starting to rewire everything else.
Yeah, I've seen exactly the same. You just find, what's the point if someone's going to lie in bed and just twiddle their thumbs and just be looking at the ceiling?
Completely.
Just their brain
Waste
is
of
just, it's just on. It's
Yes.
wired. And so you need to give time for that autonomic response to calm the fuck down, get them switching from sympathetic to parasympathetic. And then, as you say, by the time they're actually ready to get into bed, it's like, all right, I'm a little bit more relaxed.
Absolutely.
I'm chilled. Versus fuck. Everything's going
I've got to
to break
get to sleep
tomorrow.
because my Whoop's going to tell me I'm having a terrible sleep, and then my recovery is going to be terrible, my HRV is going to be terrible, you know. So yeah, we really need to manage
all the
to
overthinking and the overanalyzing and
all of that.
we often talk about in this podcast like the things that are really getting on people's nerves and what are the things that frustrate them. It's in the name, it's rants. What are things that you're really excited about and about in the industry and also enjoying within your coaching at the moment?
Things I'm really excited about, honestly, next year, I really want to bring back community. You know, I think since COVID, we had this you know, it's the C word, right? We had this like divorce of seminars and like people getting together. And listen, I'm an introvert, right? I love to spend time alone, but I also love community. And I think that that's something that I think we, as a fitness community, we really need to bring that back. You know, we see like how important High Rocks has been, for example. I'm definitely no High Rocks athlete, but I can see why people do it.
Same reason as CrossFit.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Same as CrossFit. You know, I train jiu-jitsu and like, it's so fun to have like that kind of community feel. And so I think really bringing that community feel back into my platform is amazing. And the girls have really connected in there. And so I'd like to start sort of running more seminars again that I used to do back in the day.
In person.
And you know, that kind of fills my travel bucket, and it also fills my in-person bucket. And from there, I develop new ideas when I see people in person, because I'm not on a gym floor anymore. So that I'm really excited about. I'm really excited about AI and tech, because if we can start looking at like the data with Whoop, if we can start integrating that and, you know, creating chat bots, like a little Rachel bot or a little Ross bot, where somebody can actually ask a question and get the answer in real time. I'm excited about that, but I do not think it's going to replace podcasting, and I do not think it's going to replace personal coaching. Yeah. And so I'm excited about it.
That was going to be my next set of questions.
Right. Yeah. So I think I'm really excited about all of that. I think we have to embrace it as an industry. It's only going to help more people. But I do think as well, everybody wants that community. Everybody wants that face-to-face, and everybody wants that like person to person. So that I'm really excited about.
Probably even more so because I think with how, COVID just accelerated the online space to an unprecedented level. And so it's almost getting to a point now that even if someone is working with an online coach, what I've found more and more is that people are just missing that face-to-face connection with people.
Absolutely.
And you're finding that a lot more, and I don't know if you've found this or not, maybe your client base in the UAE has started to maybe pick up in last 1 or 2 years. I'm not sure if that's the case or not. But I think people are feeling like, I want a coach who, if possible, I can actually see at some point.
Yes.
Actually meet face to face. So I am seeing that certainly my own coaching. I think back in 2019, I had a much bigger spread of international and local. Now it's probably 10% international and 90%
amazing
UAE, which is interesting. So that also got my brain going in the same direction. I think the community stuff needs to be more.
And I don't know, maybe it's like, I don't think it's just a personal thing. I hate Zoom calls. It's just not the same for me as...
It's a logistics thing as well. How do you fit, X amount of Zoom calls in your diary a week?
Well, people do, people do. And this is where I say, well, if you are doing on Zoom calls, get an under-desk treadmill, right? And so that's another way you can get your steps in, is like under-desk treadmills. But there's nothing beats that face-to-face, nothing. And, because you have the energy exchange, you can just read somebody so much more. And I really feel that we're missing that. So that's what I'm excited about.
Yeah. AI, the one thing I will mention on that is that I think, and it's funny, I've even seen this with a couple of my clients, is that people are getting to a point where they're almost going to start trusting AI more than coaches. So I've had a couple of clients say, well, this is what chat told me about X, Y, and Z topic.
Let's talk about that.
Yeah. The first thing is as well, like you can't rely that this is even accurate or factual data. And I found that especially the case for health and fitness stuff.
Absolutely.
So I think that's where, like you said, if you're a crap coach and you don't have much knowledge, you probably are going to be replaced because, well, it can give a better answer than you can. But if you understand the nuances and the context, that's something that chat definitely can't do.
100% nuance and context.
Yeah.
Listen, we all need, like, I'm all for being evidence-based, evidence-informed, actually, not necessarily evidence-based. I'm not an evidence-based coach. Right? I'm an evidence-informed coach, but I use my experience and intuition and the art of coaching. And that's what ChatGPT cannot give you. And so I 100% agree with you. It's totally missing context. And like I said at the beginning, we're not just a physical body. We are the 5 bodies: energetic, emotional, spiritual, and physical. And we have to incorporate all of that. ChatGPT at this stage cannot do that because contextually it is missing that. It is missing the experience. It is missing the art of coaching. It is missing that person-to-person stuff. So I completely agree. And, you know, I don't think a top coach is going to be replaced.
No, I agree.
Yeah.
What do you think is, at the moment, this thing you're maybe not that excited about where the industry is heading at the moment, and what frustrates you the most?
You know what fucking frustrates me the most is, you know, a lot of people get their information off Instagram nowadays, which is great. Like, a lot of us are educated and we put out like good content, but unfortunately people have the attention span of a squirrel on speed. And so if your reel is more than 15 seconds, it's going to be taken out of context. I could say on the internet, I love dogs. Somebody is going to say somewhere, why do you fucking hate cats? You're an evil cat woman. You hate cats so much. And I'm like, dude, I didn't say anything about cats. All I said was, I love dogs. And so I think, you know, this is one of my real big like pet hates is that people think that they know everything about you, everything about your philosophy, and make judgment calls on your art of
One
coaching.
or two finger flicks of your feet,
which is crazy. I think Instagram and social media is incredible for starting to educate people and get people into our feeds and into our loops, into our sphere, and then hopefully they'll come on a podcast and find out a little bit more about us and about our philosophies and what we do. Well, we can talk a lot more about context. We can't do that online. And so I think also people who talk in absolutes. And so you must do it this way, you must do it that way. Look, I'm very adamant on
it's polarizing.
It is, right? I'm very adamant on the certain frameworks and strategies that we use. But there are gray areas, you know? And so, for example, my clients don't track calories and macros. The reason being is that I think there are way better ways of doing it. You have a duty and a responsibility to know what is in your food. If you have no idea what's in your food, using a short-term tool like tracking your calories and macros is a good idea for a short-term period of time. The problem is that people are using it now to manage behavior. This is where we're going to end up with problems.
And then people become incredibly neurotic if the numbers don't match.
And then you end up fudging the numbers anyway. And then you end up binge eating and blah, blah, blah. And then the numbers don't match. But, you know, if we're looking at like counting grains of rice into plastic pots and weighing your blueberries, this is ridiculous. This is normalizing an eating disorder, which is a lot of what's going on in the fitness industry right now. 100%. So know what calories matter. Of course they matter. Thank you, Captain Obvious, right? We have to state the obvious because somebody's going to say, Rachel, say calories don't matter. They do, obviously. But it's the quality of those calories. And I think we cannot mess with protein. That has to come first. Because if we want to satisfy hunger, energy, and cravings, satiety, satiation, and manage physical cravings, protein, no-brainer. And it has to be a good quality animal protein. I don't work with vegans. And if you want to work with a vegan, go find a specialist vegan coach, right? I wouldn't go to a vegan coach and say, I love your style, I love your approach, but can I add a tomahawk steak? Okay? Go and if you are a vegan vegetarian, go and find a specialist in that area.
I think the big part of that is that it's because that coach will be passionate about working with that demographic, which makes all the difference as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I'm definitely not passionate about working with vegans. In fact, in all of my years, I mean, I cannot remember the last time I saw clean blood work on a vegan. I'm sure they're out there, but they don't happen to come into my clinic. So, you know, go and find somebody in that domain, in that area. And so protein is a non-negotiable. I have a very firm stance on protein. And so to make it easy for clients on social media, if they're coming across my profile, I'll say a blanket, you need to be eating 30 to 50 grams of protein 3 times a day. There's nuance
as a minimum
there.
non-negotiable.
As a minimum non-negotiable. Yeah. there's nuance there. But if somebody hears that and they say, right, 30 to 50 grams of protein 3 times a day. Rachel said, all right, Rachel said that. So I'm going to have a smashed burger for breakfast. I'm going to have a, roast chicken for lunch, and I'm going to have salmon for dinner. My job is done. That may never become a paying client. It doesn't matter. I have affected and I have impacted their life because they've taken that one principle away from me. Somebody will say, well, how do you know like it's 30 to 50 grams of protein based on the weight of the client? I don't. I'm making a judgment call based on the
this
average.
This piece of content is not meant to give you that information.
Exactly that. So this is the kind of stuff that does ruffle my feathers. And of course, then we got the the influencers who go do your BBL and then selling your glute workouts. I mean, to be honest, they're not really in my field. Like, they're not really in my sphere. And stuff that pisses me off on social media, I just ignore it. Like, I'm not a commenter. Okay.
Too focused on yourself.
Yeah. Too focused on what I'm doing, too focused on what my clients are doing and what my colleagues are doing in the industry. How can we share each other's stuff? Like, how can we get the better word out there? And I also don't like these takedown videos. I see a lot of people doing
the stitching and sort of commenting over other people's stuff.
Yes, I don't like doing that. And even if I'm going to respond positively to somebody, like, it's just not my game. I would feel, I mean, I get it. It gets good reach and everything. I don't want to play that game.
And you often see the comment sections of these types of posts. It's a cesspool. It's just...
I think it's inciting bullying and encouraging bullying, honestly.
It reveals the worst of humankind.
It does.
I just think to myself, as soon as I see something like that, I'm just like, scroll right past.
And I don't even care what they have to say.
Who has the time to get involved in that stuff?
Absolutely. And, even if I disagree with what's being disagreed with, it doesn't matter. I don't like the tone in which it's done. I think it's very juvenile. And I just, it's not a good energy to be around.
Yeah, and that's probably been one of the biggest changes probably in our time since getting in the industry. I can remember when all you had as a lead generation tool was you walked the gym floor and you spoke to people face to face.
Can we just bring back a little bit of that? Just say hello to everybody on a gym floor. Introduce your clients to other clients. Introduce your clients so that your client, even if you're not there, feels comfortable coming into the gym floor. They know other trainers. Hi, Ross. How are you? Oh, yeah, so-and-so's away today. My trainer's away today, but I got his program and, I'm doing my thing. You got to tell him, you can have that bit of banter. Yeah. Let's bring back that banter, bring back that fun to the gym.
Do you feel like almost with how competitive things have got in the online space and people are trying to maybe juggle both in person and online? I don't know about you, but if I go into a place like, and this is not taking digs at anyone in particular, because there are actually some really nice people that I come across in different gyms. If I go into somewhere like Train SF, there's maybe 2 or 3 people that they are so friendly to everyone. They say hi to all the other trainers. They say hi to their clients as well. But then you get those that are very much, it's us versus them. That sort of us versus them mentality. And I don't like to see it. Like, certainly when I was back in the gym 15 years ago back in Scotland, the community is the word. It's like, it was almost like this big community. And everyone knew everyone. And like, okay, well, this person worked with that person. We respect that. And we all know each other. And we can still be nice and say hi. But now it's almost like so dog eat dog. It's like people talking behind each other's backs. And just don't have time for it.
It's like a cesspit. I mean, I just remember, kind of like going back to a time where I was on the gym floor. This would have been 2015 when I was still in Australia. One of my clients and one of my very good friends, he's a trainer, is his client. They used to train at the same time. And like these 2 guys, like they're both lawyers. And my client was a lawyer and his client was a lawyer. And they kind of like were a bit rivalry, but like really like mates as well. And like they'd be looking at each other from across the gym like this, like, and just laughing. We'd have so much fun. And then we'd have then we'd be like on a prowler together and be like, right, boys, it's on, like it's competition time. But that, like, you take that then into your work environment because you have that community and you have that feel of, you know what, I had a bit of fun at the gym today. Yeah. Like, let's just bring back the fun. And I think that that's a big part of working with high achievers is that we've forgotten to have fun along the way. That there's just that little bit of banter, that little bit of an edge, that little bit of, being a little bit inappropriate at times. Let's bring that back. The good old rugby days, they were so fun. Like, let's just bring a bit of that back because we went so far and so serious and everything is so woke and so politically correct. Fuck that. Like, let's just bring it back to the middle somewhere we can have a little bit of fun along the way.
Do you know what? I think that's a bloody good way to end the podcast. Yeah. So I think first thing, I'll put it in the description anyway, but just shout out now, where is the best place for people to come and find you, connect with you, enter your sphere?
I'm most active on Instagram, so at the Rachel Godfrey. I have I say I'm trying to start the whole LinkedIn thing. I got to say LinkedIn is a little bit boring for me, but maybe we should ruffle a few feathers in that space and like spice it up in our own way if we're going to talk about banter and fun. And then obviously the house of Onyx.com, which is our fitness platform. And then our main website is chaselifeconsulting.com.
Awesome. And you have a podcast as well, do you not?
I do. You're going to have to come on our podcast. Our podcast is the Chase Life Podcast.
Awesome. So all of that, I'll link below in the relevant comment description section, whether it's YouTube or we're on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, the whole shebang. Rachel, we'll have to do a part 2.
We do. Thank you so much for having me.
Thanks again. That's a wrap for today's episode of the Fitness Rants Podcast. If today's guest episode resonated with you, be sure to hit subscribe on either YouTube or your preferred podcast platform so you never miss our expert interviews.
And if you want to connect with today's guest, all the details are linked in the episode description. Thank you for tuning in. We're looking forward to having you back for the next episode.